I need to jump that.
Okay.
Can you reach the
Yep. Hi, this is Scott Jordan. You're watching live here at Cellars of Sonoma in beautiful Railroad Square, Santa Rosa, California. I've got Heidi Barrett here with our La Serena wines, and we've just tasted the Moscato, and it was very, very nice.
Thank you.
And we're going to make a transition. That's okay. We're going to make a transition into the next wine in your portfolio. You've got 3 Syrahs. We're going to start with the San Ynez. But what I want to introduce, Dan from Iowa. Hang on, Andy. Dan from Iowa has been watching our show for a long time. He's a blogger, and he has been a loyal fan. And I sent him the last wine club shipment.
Oh, terrific.
So he has your La Serena.
The 06 Santa Ynez, right?
Yeah, the one we put in the shipment.
Okay, good.
And so that's what we're going to taste, and he's going to taste along with us.
Oh, that's very
and
fun.
Ask a few questions of the wine. So Dan, you've been waiting a long time, my friend. Good to see you up there. And you've been waiting a long time to taste this wine. I told him you can't taste it. I'm not sending you more bottles. You just got to take what you got right there.
This whole thing.
Yeah. So first of all, go ahead, Andy. Take a shot of that. This is the 2006.
2006 Santa Ynez.
Santa Ynez.
Yep. So for those who don't know where Santa Ynez is, if you're not from California, you may not know, but it's down central coast of California, almost as far south as Santa Barbara, but a little bit north of there. So a much cooler area than our warmer Napa Valley and Sonoma valleys. A little bit, more coastal, and the fruit ripens later. And the way it translates in the glass and in the bottle is a little bit more red fruit driven, a little more lively, juicy than the Napa Valley version, which is blacker fruits and a little more depth and richness. So the Santa Ynez makes a lot of friends. It's just super easy to drink, just lush and rich and
ready to go.
Yeah, ready to go. You can just pull corks and start enjoying it.
So we're going to talk with Dan from Iowa. I'm going to leave the spot here, and Andy, go ahead and shoot that shot up there of Dan. I'm going to come over on that side. I almost broke my cordage. And let me just walk over here. Those of you that are watching live, this is live TV. And we're doing something that we've been trying to do for a long time. Hey, Dan, good to see you, man. How you doing tonight?
Hi, Scotty.
Hey, good to see you. You got your glass there? You got your wine out? There you go, baby.
We've got the wine out.
There you go. So you might want to maybe turn down. Are you listening to the broadcast? If you're listening to the live broadcast, you might want to turn that down.
Yes, very good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Or that could be on my end. Anyway, we've been trying to do this. Okay. Is that?
There we go.
Oh, that took care of it, right? Oh, yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's perfect. So we've been trying to get together to do this. You've got 4 wines that were in our wine club shipment, and for the next 4 weeks consecutively, I've got each of those vintners coming in, and we're going to taste the wine together. So we wanted to introduce Dan. Dan's been a really good fan, and so Dan, if you as you go along, you got questions, just fire them off, and and Heidi will answer them for you live. Okay?
I will do that.
All right, very good. So swirl your glass, enjoy that wine, and I'll get Kevin back over here to field some questions, and we'll be in good shape.
Okay.
So everybody can see Dan. There you go. You're live. You gotta love that. It worked,
And they
Dan.
haven't run from the room yet?
No, they didn't run. They stayed. So you're okay. So
That's here.
all right. So enjoy that. And when you come up with some questions, Dan, just fire them off to Kevin, and then we'll shoot them off to Heidi. Okay?
Okay, I will do that.
Great. Thanks, Dan. Appreciate it, man. So that's what live video. So Kevin, you need to go back over and field questions there, buddy. So come back over and catch us when I sit down here. So we've been trying to put this together for quite a while to have Dan do the tasting right along with us. It's kind of neat technology.
Yeah.
He's on Skype, we're on this video live, and it kind of put it all together. So it was a fun little experiment.
Definitely fun.
Yeah.
Cheers, Dan.
Yeah. Here's to Dan. If you have questions along the way, just let Kevin know, and he'll be able to answer them for you. And Is that a delay? That is a delay, isn't it, Andy? Okay. So Santa Ynez, those of you that don't know, that's down Santa Barbara.
To Santa Barbara.
Almost
yeah.
to Santa Barbara.
Yeah, pretty far south on the coast.
Tell me a little bit about this growing season this year. What are you seeing this year?
For the 2011?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's been a really cool spring and summer, so much colder than we are used to in the last, 5 or 10 years. This is one of the cooler summers on record. Last year was similar. What that leads to is a very late harvest because we're really counting on units of heat to ripen the grapes, and we need some good California sunshine to make it happen and get the job done. So we're a little behind on that. It's been warm the last few weeks, which is helping us get caught up. Yeah. So things are looking pretty good. We have some lighter crop in a few areas where there was some rain damage during bloom. So for people who know viticulture, you probably understand a little bit about that. For people who don't, when grapes bloom, just like other plants, they actually make little flowers. And where each flower is, it will make a grape berry. So when the bunches are in bloom, they're these bristly, it almost looks like a little bottle brush, fluffy little white flowers on what becomes a bunch of grapes. When rain hit during bloom, if every time a drop knocks a flower off, you don't get a grape. So it's a really, critical time.
Because they're self-pollinating.
Yeah, they are. So every time, if it gets too much wind, you can lose fruit. If it gets rained on during bloom, you can lose fruit. So we happened to get quite a bit of rain right during bloom. And it's a little bit spotty around wine country, probably in both Sonoma and Napa. We saw, a certain amount of damage from that. And in some areas, quite a bit of damage where some vineyards have maybe half the crop they would normally have. And others were largely unaffected.
So when you see that out in the vineyard, are you inclined to cut that fruit out?
Oh, no, there is no fruit. It's just, it'll have a stem, but no berries.
No berries at all.
Yeah, it'll just have nothing. Or it'll have a few. It'll be very spotty.
So, but do you still cut that growth off?
No.
Or just leave it?
What's there will still ripen. So it's sort of self-thinning in a way. I mean, a lot of growers go back and they'll thin if they have too much crop anyway. This is sort of on auto thin. It got thinned from the clouds from above. So, yeah, and in some cases, bloom happens over a period of time. It varies a little bit variety to variety. So some varieties were virtually untouched. They're fine. The grapes look absolutely normal, and in others, wow, they really got wiped out. So it's just going to be a little bit spotty around the valleys.
And so it really depended on, I guess, the warmer areas not as affected. Because
it's more by I'd say variety and specific vineyard site. So how rain isn't exactly even. There's you get a big burst here and there, and the eastern hills versus the western hills may or may not get the same amount of rain. So it's just a little bit sporadic around the valley. But overall, things are kind of starting to catch up. We're here middle of August, and I was looking at some vineyards actually this morning. And we're getting some good color. We expect to see veraison start to see the color change about this time of year or even a little bit before, but we're not that far behind, which is great. So they're starting. It's starting to catch up. And once we get through all of that, once everything's colored up, we can kind of really start to see where there's areas where it's behind and maybe cut off those behind areas and kind of really size up the crop for the year. So another few weeks we'll have a better idea of that.
Well, I've heard lots of stories of being several weeks behind, and that can really complicate things at the back end of the harvest, right? Because the rain could be coming, and that's going to mess up the whole thing.
Yeah, and that is the big issue, really. Is just you wonder if if rain holds on till middle of November at least, we're golden, everything's perfect. But if we get early rain, and you still have fruit that's not ripe, there is the danger of getting rot and less than perfect fruit.
Sure.
So that's always the worry, because it's farming. At the end of the day, there's no guarantees. We're farming, taking something from the earth, which is essentially a gift. It's not a given. It's not automatic.
Right.
And hopefully that you do everything you can, but you really can't control nature. So
no. And you just gotta live with it and
that's it.
Deal with it, right?
Hope for the best.
Okay. So we have a question. Go ahead, Kevin. Eat that mic, man. Okay.
How long was the Syrah aged, and what is the price point?
Okay, well, the Syrah was aged in all French oak, actually, not all new French oak. I have to qualify that, but it was in for let's see, about, I think around 20 months for the Santa Ynez. It's a little bit less than the Napa Valley version and a little bit less than my cab, but it goes into similar barrels to that, an assortment of French oak barrels, different coopers that are the guys that make the barrels from different parts of France. And then typically it would get about 1/3 new oak, 1/3 once used, which would be 2-year-old barrels, and 1/3 twice used barrels, something like that. So a split of barrels, which give you really nice softness without being over oaked. The attention is really, and the focus is really about the fruit. Oak used only as an accent to really enhance that. So to keep that beautiful soft mouthfeel, and oak, almost like cooking, you just put in a little bit of spice to accentuate. You don't want to just coat the lamb with rosemary. It's just too much. So you just use it very judiciously.
So when you're starting the program, now you've done this wine at several vintages, but early on, do you just come up with a formula in the beginning and say, we're going to put about 1/3 in new oak, and I'm going to do it that way, and then as you go along, then you fine-tune it based on...
Yeah, and it's kind of that way. That's exactly right. At the beginning, you're basically guessing. It's kind of a, somewhat educated guess, I would like to think, after doing it for this many years. But I basically do it every year. There is no real recipe for it, but I kind of size up each different lot of wine, each batch, we call it a lot, by size and weight of the wine and how much intensity of fruit there is. And then I kind of match up the barrel plan for each of those different wines. So some of the bigger, bolder wines, cabs, could take a little more new oak in the mix. Like some of my biggest hillside cabs, they might get closer to 50% new, whereas something that's pretty soft and just velvety like the Santa Ynez gets more like 1/3. So it's going to be somewhere in that range, depending on the size and weight of the wine, which is going to kind of be a good match. And, it does vary a little bit year to year, so that's where some of the art comes in of deciding what's going to be the best way to go.
That's why people hire you.
That's right. I'd like to think there's a reason they pay me.
It's when they stop paying you is the problem, right?
I know. So far, so good.
So far, they're still paying you.
Yeah, exactly.
So we're going to take a little break. This is Scott Jordan. You're watching live here.